Hello everyone, welcome to Alive to Thrive OT. I'm Lauren Lyman.
And I'm Tracy Schnabel.
And today we're talking to you about the truth behind diet fads. So before we get started, real quick, again, we are two occupational therapists who noticed a gap in healthcare, and we want to do all the research for you, help you bridge that gap, and help to empower you to reclaim your health. So we do have a legal disclaimer. All of our podcasts are for informational purposes only. So if you do have any specific diagnoses or concerns, please bring them to your medical professional and talk to them about it. You're welcome to bring any information that we introduce to them, but you always want to consult with your doctor. Don't just dive right in. And again, all of our information that we provide, we do not have any warranties, we do not have any representations, and we are not responsible for any loss suffered by any viewing parties. So please proceed at your own risk, and if you have a medical emergency, please call 911. So, Tracy, take it over.
So, hi guys. Like we said, we just want to do the research for you. So there's a lot of diet trends going on now, and we've discovered, so much of your health is connected to your nutrition and your daily habits and routines in relation to food. So we just wanted to do this video and educate you guys so that, like she was saying, you don't have to do the research. So I kind of went back to the traditional diet. So I'm just going to kind of talk to Lauren about it. And so I was looking at how did people used to kind of generally look at how to diet, and it was based off of the 2,000 calorie diet idea, right? And then I researched, well, where did that come from? And it was the FDA wanted to find a way to give people a percentage of their daily value on the labels for food. So they took a USDA survey and saw how many calories people took in daily, and it's actually based, they tried to oversimplify it, so it's actually based off of like a 130-pound woman that's moderately active, and it doesn't account for like male-female differences
in body type, which we talk about in another one of our presentations.
Yeah, or like metabolic function, like what is your body's metabolic function like,
or where are the calories coming from?
Yeah.
Calories calorie from an avocado is not the same as a calorie from a Tootsie Roll.
Right, which is precisely right. So that's why, like, a lot of people, when they just do calorie restriction, I mean, you can lose weight, but, like, long-term wise, it won't work or it won't be healthy because, like, there's so many more things that are involved than just calories, like she was saying. And Weight Watchers, that was another fad that I researched, and I kind of thought, I was like, oh, like maybe this is a bad thing, because it seemed kind of fatty, I don't know. But actually, it wasn't just a calorie count, which I thought it was. A point system. So it seemed to be like really good because they take into account like different values for proteins and like for sugars and like natural sugars. So like if you have an apple, like that's no points, but if you have an apple pie, it's 12 points. So exactly what you were saying, like the type of food is accounted for, like protein, sugars, carbs, and things like that is looked at based on a point value. So like a downside of it though is that you like have to constantly like add points all day. But
a lot of work, yeah.
It's a lot of work.
I mean, after a while though, you probably get the hang of it, and people are so routine, they kind of eat the same things over and over again. So probably get used to it.
Yeah, like my mom and someone else I knew that was on it, like they started to memorize the point system. Yeah. And what it really is I was surprised when I was doing research that it like takes into account that eating is like a behavioral thing, so sometimes we emotionally eat. It's an addiction. It's
definitely social. I mean, how many times have you gone to a social event and there wasn't food?
Yeah, I'm not there if there's not. So like if people want me somewhere, they're like, Tracy, there's food. So but so I just thought it was interesting because I would have never tried Weight Watchers, but like for some people it really works well, like people that really they might have like an emotional relationship to food. It seems like it might be good. I know that like some of my relatives, like my aunt really likes it. The only thing is that it's a lifelong thing. You can't just like do it and then not do it. So they were saying that the research shows that it shows continued weight loss, but it's if you continued it, do the point system. And they have a lifetime membership, and they have group like meetings to like keep you talking to other people about, you know, if eating's related to behavior, like talking to those behaviors and emotional concerns underlying the eating, which I thought was like really cool component of it, because I didn't really know that part of it. So that's like one of the only diets that added emotion to looking at.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
And what I realized in my research is that there's no easy answer to this. You know, like everything's relative, actually.
Right.
So you have to find, you know, something that works for you. As an occupational therapist, you know, we would recommend, you know, consistency with anything you do. Like you shouldn't do anything just like for a short period of time and anything too drastic. You know, you should be like balanced with all your proteins, you know, and things like that, and vegetables and fruits. Like, and you should be doing it continually over time, not just for a small increment because you're like, oh shoot, I want to lose like 15 pounds for my wedding or for, I don't know, like a special occasion or something. It should be like because you're incorporating it as a lifestyle, not as a fad.
Right.
That's what we would say. So
well, that's one of the things I think is really hard about dieting, and we do have another video why diets don't work. I think that people they get so gung-ho on it for such a short period of time, and then they burn out because it's so hard to maintain. So I think looking at it as a diet, the word diet itself, like I think is just so negative. The connotation is just like over time, it isn't good. We don't associate diets with positive things, you know. Oh, a diet is a fad. A diet is something I do for a short period of time. But if you want health, I mean, sure, if you want to be skinny for an event, sure, go on a diet. That'll do what it needs to do. But if you want to be healthy, then you need to change your lifestyle. And actually, research has shown that yo-yo dieting, where you go on a diet, you lose weight, then you gain it back, go on a diet, lose weight, back and forth, it's really hard on your heart, and it causes a lot of health problems. So it's almost, and I'm not going to say don't change your lifestyle, but it's almost worse to diet and stop than it is to just not diet at all. So I'm a big proponent of more lifestyle change and doing things that you can sustain over your life or over a really long period of time, so you're not doing that yo-yo. Yeah, it can be kind of scary too to watch people like do those like drastic cuts in their calories or just unsafe. I've seen people take different like drinks and things like that like just clear out everything. I don't know about that, but I just think that it's better, and from what my research is showing is consistency is key. And taking into multiple factors, not just calories, and then also like with the Weight Watchers, if it's an emotional thing, take that into account too. So you have to look at it kind of like OTs do in a multifactorial way, like what is causing the problem, and then address that with your diet. Interestingly, though, the social component. So if we look back into like when the European Victorian era, where you had all these Europeans in power. People who were skinny people who were tan and skinny, which are things that now we value, but back then people who were tan and skinny were looked at as, oh, you're low class, you're poor, because one, they worked outside all day because they didn't live in mansions, castles. They weren't royalty. And two, they were skinny because they couldn't afford to eat all these fatty foods, right? So in the Victorian era, if you were white, very pale and chubby, fat, you were looked at as royalty. Like you could afford to eat. And that's where that expression, eat like a king, comes from, because they literally eat everything. And, you know, it became this trend of, instead of eating to live, which is what we had done for thousands of years, it became living to eat. I mean, we look forward to going out to dinner with our friends. We look forward to, you know, I do Sunday dinners with my family. You know, it's all centered around food, and we love it. And food is a great social bonding, a social interaction. But I think in other aspects of our lives, it's hard to separate. It really is. I mean, every now and then going out and treating yourself, but do you know how hard it is to go out to a restaurant and eat healthy? I mean, even the salad dressing is really bad for you. And it's like, it's hard to find food that's healthy when you're at a social gathering, you know, and then you don't want to be the person in the room being like, oh, I can't eat that, you know?
Yeah. And one time I was talking to somebody, I was trying to make my dad sauerbraten. It's this German dish. And I'm meeting somebody in the store, asking them where the ginger snaps are. We started talking about food, and they said that food is a spiritual experience. As I was saying, sometimes I try to rush through it and then it doesn't turn out. Like, you literally have to put love into the food for it to come out correctly. So I think food, it's a lot more than what we think it is, how we're trained to think about food. So we're just kind of asking our audience and ourselves to rethink our relationship with food and
even the way
nature.
We eat. I mean, we are so rushed because we live in a Western world.
Yes,
we're very
we're too
fast-paced.
rushed. Yeah.
There are places in Europe that if they want to take a 2-hour lunch, they'll take a 2-hour lunch. And then they'll just sit there and socialize and eat slowly. And when they're full, they'll feel it, because when you don't feel that your stomach is full until way after it's already full, because there's a delayed, your food has to go down. There's a delayed effect. So if you're shoving food down your throat, if you're eating quickly, you're not going to know you're full until it's too late. And then you're just like, oh my God, I ate too much, right? How many of us have had that feeling, oh my God, I ate too much? There are parts in the world where people don't experience that, because they sit down, they eat their food, they enjoy their food, and when they're full, they stop eating, and we just are so programmed to just let's go, 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 and we don't enjoy our food. And then we have this idea that only unhealthy food tastes good, because it's like a mental thing. It's not even a physical, it's not even our taste buds anymore. We're just like, oh, this is unhealthy, it tastes good, and then we cram it down our throats. But if you actually sit down and enjoy taste your food, relax, enjoy your food, you'll find that some of those bad foods, the chips, you can taste the artificial crap in it, and it doesn't taste good. But if you're just shoving chips down your throat for the sensory, the chewing, the texture, where you're watching football or whatever, you just chip, chip, chip. But if you actually sit there and eat one chip at a time and really focus on what you're eating, you might not even like the food that you're eating, and you've been eating it for years and didn't even realize you don't like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's complex.
Yeah. I've gotten yelled at because I eat too slow by several people.
They're like, well, you're hooking up
today. And our rate.
Tracy does everything slow. I went to a museum with her once. We were there for 3 hours. I was like, oh my God, can we go? She spends 5 minutes looking at one painting. I'm like, I wish I could enjoy life like this, but I just can't do it.
So yeah, ourselves, our beliefs as a society need to change. We need to prioritize our health and prioritize enjoying life. Yeah, I remember hearing in Italy about siesta and how they take those hours out and being so jealous. Oh, that would be nice. So, and then also you were talking about the Victorian age, another fad diet before was the paleo diet. So I researched that as well. And the basic premises, I don't want to go too far into each of these diets because there's a lot to know about each of them, but just what you need to know. It's basically going back to the Paleolithic man, right? So our ancestors, the idea that the belief that they didn't have cancer, they didn't have heart disease, they didn't have diabetes, all these diseases that stemmed up later. Autoimmune disorders. We've been talking about 1 in 2 people have a chronic disease in this country. So it's really bad that we have so much sickness. So the idea with this diet was okay, let's go back to our ancestors where they had less disease, and let's reduce the processed food, the McDonald's and the sugars and
or even just your cereals and your chips.
Yeah, that too.
Anything that's packaged, really. They didn't have packaged food back then.
Basically all natural, meats and plants. And there's a debate over how much carbs, because different Paleolithic man had different consumptions, but some diets don't have potatoes and some do. But the basic idea from what I got from it is just going back to a more natural, ground up way of living than
eating off of the land.
Rushed we were just saying, fast food, processed food, additives, food. And less Cokes and alcohol and all those things that are really not natural for your body to process. They cut it out. Now, the research for it was that it was good at improving weight loss initially, but they didn't have like a lot of like long-term research for it. So, but I mean, like we were saying, like the idea is reduce processed food. Like that's a good idea. You know?
If you can't find it out in nature, you shouldn't be eating it.
Yeah.
That's basically the idea.
I think the theoretical base of the diet is great, you know? So I think that we need to just be like thinking about cooking for ourselves more, taking more time to, you know, like you were saying, mindfulness while you're eating, and to not kind of rush through such an important part of your health and vitality. And then there was some other diets, like the Atkins diets. You guys remember that? So I thought that was just like a crazy fad, but it was actually extremely interesting, the Atkins diet. It was developed by a physician, and he was a heart doctor, and he decided like he really wanted to help his patients. So if you notice when you do research about things, like any new discovery or something that happened that was amazing was because somebody decided, hey, there has to be a better way, which is what Lauren and I are trying to do. As we noticed a gap in the healthcare system, and we're like, hey, there has to be something better. So I was really excited reading that he did tons of nutrition research. And then for his heart patients, he wanted to challenge, the USDA was recommending like 60% carbs, 30% fat, 10% protein in your daily diet. But he challenged it by saying 40% carbs, 30% fat, and 30% protein. So upping the protein, downing the carbs. Because what a lot of people don't realize, and do you know somebody like called me a liar? So I was trying to explain to them, a lot of people don't, I guess if you're not in the medical field and you're not taught this in school, you don't know. But carbs are, you know, broken down in the body into sugars. So that could lead to things like diabetes and just like chronic health issues if you're overloading your body with carbs. And I think a lot of people know sugars are bad, but I don't think they know that carbs are that bad.
And then there's two types of carbs. You know, you have your simple carbs, which are processed into the sugar right away, and then there are complex carbs, which take a little longer, things like potatoes and rice.
Yeah. So yeah, there's different types of carbs. Basically though, like you just don't want to have like a lot of bad carbs, and you don't want to overload your carbs because that's really bad for the body. And then eventually what was really interesting when I was doing more research is that if you have an excess of sugar in your body eventually converts that to fat. So like if you want to lose weight, you don't want to be having a lot of carbs or a lot of sugars. So, but I don't think people really think about it that much.
And fat, I mean, we all know fat gets stored in your body, and the only way to get rid of fat is to use up your sugar reserve.
Exactly.
Because your sugar is used immediately for energy. Your body says, we need energy, go get the sugar. Once you run out of the sugar, then your body goes to the fat. So if you're eating too much sugar and you're not exerting yourself enough, you have all this sugar and your body's like, oh, we don't need this, we can store it for later. So you store it for fat. You know, and if you look at it from an evolutionary perspective, it was great for the winter because just like a bear hibernates, right? Like in the winter, when we were out in the wild, you know, we had a harder time getting food in the winter. You know, there's plants aren't growing, the animals are hibernating, or they're harder to catch, whatever. So their bodies started converting all of their sugar to fat to prepare, because then when they went through these lulls where they couldn't find food, their body used up, there was no sugar, so their body said, okay, we got to use the fat, and then started using the fat. Then spring came, and then they could, you know, start the process all over again. So evolutionarily speaking, I mean, we talk about evolution a lot because our bodies are the same as they were thousands of years ago. Our brains may have evolved, and our technology, and, you know, we have houses and iPhones and whatever, but our bodies are innately the exact same. And it's hard because we're not evolved enough for the world that we live in. So, yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so too much sugar, it gets stored as fat.
We're not evolved.
Not enough sugar. On the reverse, if your diet is to skip meals, this is why it's so bad to skip meals, because your body's going into starvation mode. So if your diet is, oh, I'm going to eat one meal a day, or I'm not going to eat that often, this is not the same as intermittent fasting. That's something that you do every now and then. These are people who are starving themselves. Your body says, I have to go into starvation mode, and it starts storing everything as fat because it's panicked. It's worried. When am I going to get my next meal? I don't know. So we need to store this as fat. So then when these people do start eating again, they gain weight like crazy because your body automatically stores it as fat. So it's really important, again, that you're not buying into these scary diets. I mean, some of these are good, but if you're going too extreme, it's not good for your body, and then your body starts to go into survival mode, and then when you do start eating better, you don't see the results you want to see because your body doesn't even know what to do anymore.
So the key is like balance. So if you're looking at the
Lifestyle.
Atkins diet, it's like 30% protein, 30% fat, 40% carbs. That's a pretty even distribution. So if you want to default to like just how to have a healthy, happy life, just try to be like, oh, I need balance. You need balance of like food, rest, everything needs play, you know, everything needs to be balanced.
And the thing about the diets that I don't like mostly, to me, a diet, okay, you follow a very specific protocol, and it's one size fits all, which we always say we don't like because we're all different.
Yeah.
Lifestyle is where you find something that works for you, and you stick with it.
Yeah.
I mean, fruits and vegetables. We always say fruits and vegetables because really, fruits and vegetables are good for everybody. But carbs and protein, you have to be careful with those because some people have a fast metabolism. You know, the people who are like skinny, they can eat more carbs and they can digest the carbs pretty quickly and it doesn't really affect them because their metabolism is fast, their metabolic rate. But then you have people who tend to be heavier by nature and have a harder time losing weight and very easily put on weight. Now, if you give those people a lot of carbs, their bodies don't process carbs as easily. So when they follow one of these diets that say more carbs, it might not work well for them. So you really have to kind of find your balance and find what works for you. And again, that's why I don't like the word diet, because it's following a protocol that isn't meant for everyone. It's meant for certain people.
Yeah, so like, you know, we always say, you know, follow up with your doctor or a dietitian, you know, about you specifically if you want to make a big change, and maybe ask them too about your metabolic type and about what would work for you based off of your strengths and weaknesses.
And whoever you're talking to, make sure they know about the different body types. I mean, there are so many people who just say like, oh, this is what I recommend across the board. And I hate it. I mean, I have protocols for sure, and I like to standardize. Tracy and I are always trying to standardize care because I think it's important. But I mean, that's like talking about after someone has surgery or, you know, where you have to follow a protocol. But when you're talking about someone's day-to-day life, everybody is different. And I feel like we don't look at we call them client factors, and people don't look at them. Medical professionals don't always look at them enough to be able to prescribe something that's really appropriate for them. And I'm not saying everybody, but I have seen it happen, and it's a problem because everybody is different, and we're not treated as though we're different because we have these 15-minute doctor visits.
We're in a hurry.
So it's like, well, this is what I think is the best, or here's a handout. We like our handouts. I love handouts, but then we're losing that time where we sit down and figure out, okay, what's really going on, or what's really going to be good for you.
And prioritize yourself, right? So yeah, it might take a while to figure out what is the best and what might work for you and to read those handouts and stuff, but it's worth it, right? If you don't have a heart attack or run around with low energy levels or depression or whatever. So you just got to prioritize your self-care. I don't know why we keep like throwing ourselves aside in this society. So, but yeah, as OTs, we're always like, self-care, put it up there. So yeah, the Atkins diet has great success actually. It's really good because it's a balance between the fat, the protein, and the carbs, and then you're not, you know, having the carbs converting to sugars and being stored as fat. And it's just a healthier way of eating and looking at the balance between the different types of food. So it ended up having great results. And then there's the keto diet, which is like, I was like really wondering about it. I was like, how is like this eating fat thing like a good thing? I don't understand. So I really wanted to do research on it. And it turned out to be kind of similar, you know, to the the Atkins diet. So it's trying to reduce your carbs, but they have something kind of, I don't want to say crazy, but it's 75% fat is the ratio.
It's Atkins, but way more fat.
15% protein, and 5% carbs. Sorry, I can't remember all of it. I have to look at my sheet. But so it's really reducing your carbs and then increasing fat. So if you think back in the day with the whole calorie counting thing, it was also like low fat, like go to the store. But a lot of those low fat items are replaced with sugars in there to make up for the taste difference. So that's not good for you either. Again, sugars are stored as fat. Yeah. So go ahead.
No,
sorry.
go ahead. That's okay.
I was just like wondering, I was like, why is a high fat diet good for you? But then there was like this whole revolution in health too, and nutrition, that like not all fats are bad for you, right? So like Lauren was saying earlier, avocados are a good fat, nuts and seeds, the fat from there is very good for you. They found butter, is obviously better than margarine, because the fats are good for your brain function. They found that this diet was really good for patients diagnosed with dementia and Parkinson's. And
so your brain cells, your neurons need fat in order to grow and develop.
Yeah.
So that's why with kids, like nowadays they say avocados right away because they have a lot of fat, and kids need fat in order for their brain to develop well.
Yeah, and it was actually developed originally, sorry, I forgot to say this is really interesting, in the 20s and 30s.
Oh.
Like, I thought that was like, oh, keto is this new fad thing, and it was developed also by a doctor, like the Atkins diet, and it was to treat epilepsy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it worked really well, except for about 30% of cases needed the seizure medication still.
But even so, 70 is great.
But that's 70%. I mean, if you can think of how debilitating epilepsy can be. So again, just like that fat helping with brain function. So the fat is used for your brain's general activity. So, and
again, this is good fat. Your high-density lipids. There's HDL, your high-density lipid, and LDL when you go get your blood panel, right? HDL, that can be high. That's okay because that's your good fats. LDL is your bad fat. So we're not saying if you have seizures, you should go out and eat all this junk food. Not at all. Yeah. It's actually really bad for you.
Right. Yeah. No, you don't want to go and have trans fats and the bad kind of fats. You want like the healthy fats, like we were saying, like the like peanut oil or the avocado. They were saying nuts and seeds and like certain fish, the ones that have like the fats in them that are healthy versus like you don't want to go and eat a bunch of potato chips, and like just like go crazy. But that was a criticism of it. Like it was good, but it was recommended for short term because they were saying for epilepsy it's good. They were saying cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, for a lot of different diseases it's good. But they were saying for short term it's good, but long term, like they weren't really positive about how good that would be to have 75% even good fat. Yeah. That's a lot. So again,
well, you can even, peanut butter, even if you buy organic healthy peanut butter, that's a lot of fat. Like to be eating peanut butter all the time, right? Yeah. So I always say, this peanut butter is good for me, but I'm like, okay, I need to cut back because even though it's better than me going and eating potato chips, there's still a point where it's not that great. So that's what concerns me the most about that diet. If you have an acute medical or chronic medical condition that's affecting you right now, go on keto for a while and then take a break, and then maybe you can go back on it later. Yeah. But with that too, then that's what makes me nervous too, because then you have to be careful because you go on keto and you're starving your body of all of these things that you normally eat. Yeah. The carbs, and then once you get off of it, the second you eat carbs, your sugar spikes, and then it drops, and then your body's like, I need more, and then you end up eating so many carbs, you end up gaining all of this weight. So you have to be really, really careful when you're coming off of keto because your rebound could be really, really bad. And again, yo-yo dieting is really unhealthy. So that's my main criticism. Main criticism for keto is that if you're not really in control of your body and your cravings and all that, it can be very challenging.
Yeah. So, with the whole going back to a balance of things, and your body, adapts to whatever you put it through, but like you're putting it through, and this is just my opinion, a lot to have that disproportionate rate. So,
and you know how many times do you know how many times I've seen people do keto
wrong?
Totally
that was
wrong.
the doctor's.
Totally wrong.
The doctor said people
like,
do it wrong.
I can have this because it's a fat, and I'm like, but it's an unhealthy, it's your LDL, your bad fat.
Right.
Like, that's not keto.
Yeah.
It's not keto.
Yeah.
You know, like if you order this really disgusting burger, but then you wrap it in lettuce instead of carbs, well, you still have all the mayonnaise on it and
right. That's what they're
whatever's in the meat. Like, it's still not healthy. Just because you're not eating bread doesn't mean it's healthy.
It puts more people at risk for heart disease, they were saying, and things because like people aren't doing it correctly. So they're eating now a lot of like fats and protein, and if they're not doing it the good fats, they're doing the bad fats, then you're putting yourself more at risk for heart disease. And so that was the criticism in the long term. They were seeing people on the keto diet developing heart problems.
So personally, what I would say is I think keto's great for kids because the parents can control what they eat, right, to an extent. So kids who have seizures or developmental disorders, autism, things like that, great. Yeah. Or older adults who have dementia because, again, they're not, once they get to a certain point, they're not picking their food. But for somebody who's just trying to be healthy overall, one, if you are well and you don't need keto, I would not personally, I wouldn't do it. Yeah. But two, if you do go on keto for an acute or a chronic, usually chronic medical condition, the yo-yo effect, you have to be so careful because what you do when you get off of keto is, I mean, it's hard. I mean, we have temptations, and sugar makes us crave more sugar, and that's what its purpose was. So if you've been floating in this range forever, and then all of a sudden you spike it up, that's
what they said too. Is
it's
the
dangerous.
Fluctuations.
It's dangerous.
Yeah,
and yo-yo dieting, like I said, is the worst thing you can do for your body. So I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say nah too. I didn't really like it just because it just doesn't follow our rule of balance, right?
Right.
And then if you do decide to do it, like you're really like gung ho about it, just make sure it's under the supervision of a physician that knows what they're doing.
And make sure you have good mental control. I mean, make sure you can handle it. If you're in a really good place and you have great willpower, awesome. If you're stressed out at work, you don't have good family support, you're busy all the time, you're always on the go, is this really feasible for you?
Yeah.
Probably not.
It's probably better to like do, like we were saying, like more similar of balance, and maybe just make sure you're adding like good fats into your diet instead of bad fats. Right. Like we were saying, the avocados, the nuts, the seeds, you know, the healthy fish, that would be good. And then the next thing that everybody's talking about, that we were talking about at jiu-jitsu, was the intermittent fasting. Yeah. And like I thought that this was bad when people were telling me, like I yelled at them. I yelled at one of our friends too. I was like, you do what?
So, and I think it's important to differentiate people skipping meals and people who are doing intermittent fasting. This is a strict regimen.
That's true. That's a good point.
And skipping meals is different and confusing your body. This is something where your body knows and can predict what's going to happen, and your body knows that you're not starving it. If like one day you just decide I'm not going to have lunch, or I'm going to eat this, and then the next day I'm going to eat that, and you're just all over the board, you're confusing your body. But this is a regimen. Yeah. And your body gets used to it.
What I thought was really interesting is like across like religions is they have it, you know, like I remember I have friends that are Muslim and they would fast. And then, you know, I remember I was raised Catholic, like we would fast too during certain periods, Lent. And then, you know, when one of my friends who traveled through India was saying that it's also common in certain Indian practices.
A lot of religions, a lot.
Yeah. And I didn't really like think about it that much, but then when I started talking to my friend who traveled through India, he started explaining to me why, because he was saying, you know, it's actually like a mindfulness practice to get you detached from the body, because we're so like, I'm hungry, I have to eat now, or I'm sad, I have to drink, you know.
So the majority of the time, I mean, next time you feel hungry, sit there and really feel, because there are times where I think I'm hungry, but I'm not hungry. I'm just like bored, or I'm just like craving textures or whatever, but I'm not actually hungry. So next time you're hungry, like actually sit down and you know, I think it was one of the classes that we took that said like most Americans don't know what it feels like to be hungry, because we don't even let ourselves get to the point where we're hungry. And that's not a good thing. I mean, you don't want to be like starving yourself, obviously, but you don't want to always be full. You know, you want to be able to fully digest your food and add more. And it's just, we get in this point where we're so sluggish because our food is literally getting stuck. We're not digesting properly anymore because we don't allow ourselves to clean out. We don't let ourselves get hungry. We don't poop when we're supposed to because we have busy lives. Like, we're just so backed up, and then it's causing digestive problems, which causes problems with everything else, and colon cancer and things like that because we literally are backed up. Yeah. So it's good to just not eat for a certain period of time. Like, we're not meant to eat around the clock,
constantly.
You know? Yeah. I mean, think about a Friday night. If you get up for work at 6 and have breakfast and then you're up till like midnight, that's a lot of time to be eating. And of course, we all eat before bed, right? Because it's really hard. Like, I do intermittent fasting, but some nights it's just like, I'm like hungry, but I think I'm like mentally hungry, like not really hungry. I'm not, I don't know. It's hard.
And sometimes it's that you're thirsty. Like, a lot of people don't realize that they're not getting enough water, and then they'll think, I confuse that signal with I got to eat more. So,
and I have to debunk this myth. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Not necessarily true.
I was surprised about that.
So, yeah, that's not really true.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was yelling.
So, breakfast, think of the word breakfast. Break fast. You're breaking your fast. Because at night you don't eat, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing you eat in the morning, that's breaking your fast. So what are you going to eat? If you eat a donut first thing in the morning, sugar is breaking your fast. That's probably not great because you're way down here in sugar. And again, then you spike up. Yeah. And what happens? So you have this point of like moderate sugar levels, right? Because remember, we need sugar. Everyone needs sugar. Yeah. But we have these moderate levels that we should be at. When you eat something that has a lot of refined sugar, like a donut, your sugar spikes, and then it's going to drop. And then when you drop, then you develop cravings, and then it spikes again. And I'm going the wrong way. And then it spikes again. So when you get out of this range in the middle, not only is it not the good sugar range that you need for your body, but you start making poor choices because you're like, oh my God, I need this sugar, so I have to get that spike. And then you're just up and down all day. Whereas if you're eating more complex carbs and you're eating healthier sugars like fruit, then you kind of stay in this range where you can make better choices for yourself. You don't have these cravings, you don't have these temptations. And I forgot my point. Oh, breakfast. So you want to break your fast with something that's not going to cause all these spikes, right? So, and then not everyone needs breakfast. And again, it's not a one size fits all. Some people need breakfast to function in the morning. Great, eat your breakfast. Some people really aren't hungry in the morning. And I remember, like, my mom's not a breakfast person. And I was always like, you really should start eating breakfast. You should start eating breakfast. And I'd always, like, nag her about it. But maybe that's not for her. And that's okay. Because as long as she's getting what she needs in the day, maybe her intermittent fast will be, like, 10 p.m. to, like, 12 the next day or whatever, 10 a.m. the next day. Whereas mine might be like 7 p.m. to like 8 o'clock the next day or whatever. I mean, there's different fasts. I think the more, the easiest one would be a 12-hour fast. Yeah. And that's pretty common. But then beyond there, you know, they have you probably have all this if you want to talk about it.
There was like the 16 hours and then 8 hours off. So like you were saying, kind of just skipping breakfast after you go to sleep and then eating at lunch. And then they had like the other fad ones there was like a 5 to 2, which was like 5 days a week you eat your normal calories, and then you cut it like in half on the Saturday and Sundays. And then there was one where there was like a 24-hour fast, you know, like once a week. So they were saying, you know, it depends on what works for you, but you just have to be cautious because if you, like you were saying, as an individual, you have maybe a like hypoglycemia or something, you have low sugar levels, you don't, you know, you might be affected profoundly by this. Or if you have diabetes, you might be affected by this. But I do
encourage you to not just give up and say, I have diabetes, I can't do this, because you can talk to your doctor, and if you get on a good regimen, people have actually reversed their type 2 diabetes with intermittent fasting. It has happened.
Yeah, it's pretty successful from what I was reading and learning and continuing education and different sources. It's not as bad as I thought.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why it's in a lot of religious texts and things, because it's actually beneficial.
I think the ideal was to only eat 8 to 10 hours a day. That would be like the best thing. If you're going to do it every day, that would be the best thing. But 12 hours is even, you start to get health benefits after 12 hours. So
yeah, they were saying that it's good because it helps boost your immune system. So it helps with like your cellular metabolism.
And it helps you digest those foods again that are getting stuck. You need time to like go through all the food that you ate that day. You want to empty out before you start your next day filling back up again, you know?
Yeah, so like, you want to give your body a break. So that was, a major point is you don't want to be constantly having it because it's constantly working for you, breaking down the foods, converting things. So you don't want to overwhelm your body. You want to rest it. So balance with your food as well. So I was surprised the intermittent fasting thing is not a fad. So, and then the Mediterranean diet, which Lauren is saying that she was, going to be doing, it was found that the people near the Mediterranean Sea were found to be like living longer and more independent, which is like what us as OTs.
Longer as in like living to be 100 years old, living on their own without needing help.
Like doing their cooking and
great
cleaning.
Stuff that's not really common in the United States.
Yeah, we think it's normal that like people are in the nursing home at like 70 or whatever, and that's not normal. It doesn't have to be that way. Like literally, I remember thinking like, what am I going to do when I'm 70 and I'm in the nursing home? Like that's gonna suck so bad, because I remember seeing so many people of my patients going, to nursing homes and things. But it doesn't have to be that way. It's related to how we're eating and our activity levels. So they found when they were studying the Mediterranean diet is that it didn't have as much red meat. Like in the United States, we eat a lot of red meat. And it was found by the World Health Organization to be as high risk factor, like associated with like smoking and things that like carcinogens that we know are really bad. It was like ranking close to that, just red meat. And we eat so much red meat. So that's pretty terrifying. So the Mediterranean diet, they have more like fish, think like by the sea and things.
But even fish and poultry, just a couple days a week.
Yeah, not even every day. Like we eat like 3 times a day sometimes,
Like, there are people that eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner all meat and red meat, poultry, fish, whatever, but it's not good. It's too much.
Yeah, but it's like common. I remember my friend from Israel was like making fun of us because he's like, you Americans are so weird. Like you have so much meat in the morning, like this bacon and sausages and, omelets, meat omelets. He's like, I was like, well, what do you eat? Well, it's like they eat like salads and like nutritional vegetables and things in the morning to start their day on the right foot, not sluggish and fat, like with the meats. So so the idea is like less meats daily and less red meat. And then on the bottom of their food pyramid is the veggies and the fruits that Lauren and I are always talking about, that you need the 8 to 10 servings a day. They're getting that because they're eating more plant-based foods than like meat-based foods.
So that's stuff they eat several times a day.
Yeah.
The foundation of their pyramid.
Yeah, and the tip of their pyramid is like more the meats, and sweets. Yeah.
Your foundation, you have your healthy oils, right? Your healthy, like avocado oil, things like that. Your healthy oils, you have your healthy grains, and then your fruits and vegetables. And then and that's several times a day. And then up from there, you have maybe a couple times a week your fish, your poultry, and eggs, and cheese. Some people say cheese every day. It fluctuates a little. And then up from there, then very seldom do you have your red meat and refined sugar. I'm not even sure that they do that.
Yeah, I didn't see a whole lot of refined. I mean, they put the sweets at the top. So. Yeah. But then they also said wine. So, like, think Italy, right? So, like, the wine is good for you. We think sometimes wine is bad, but they found that it's a probiotic. So, I mean, don't drink the whole bottle. But, a glass of wine a day, is not too bad. So that type of diet, they were found to be really healthy for people, and that might be more realistic for Americans since we're like so used to eating meat instead of like, you know.
It's a hard transition, it is. And again, if this is going to be your lifestyle, I don't even call this one a diet. This to me is like a lifestyle change. Gradually cut the meat out. You know, you eat meat every morning for breakfast, maybe cut it down to just a couple days a week, then cut it out from breakfast. And then, you know, work on your lunch, maybe only a couple times a week, or switch it from beef to chicken or beef to fish.
Yeah, we did that with guamki the other day. So that's cabbage rolls. So instead of as traditionally made with beef, we put chicken in there. And I was a little scared, I'm not going to lie, because I really like it with the beef. But we traded it, and it was just as good. It's fine. So you just have to, like, try it, you know? Sometimes you have preconceptions about things being bad, and then they're fine. So, and then another interesting, so I'm going through the 10, like, top fads or diets, just because I thought it'd be interesting. Well, so this is number 8 and 9 is I combined them, vegetarian and vegan, because in the research, it's more of, they show it on more of a spectrum, right? So I know I had a lot of this confusion because some people would be like, I'm a vegetarian, but, you know, I have dairy products. Or like some people would eat eggs. So there's ovo vegetarians that eat eggs, and there's lacto ovo that eat like dairy products and eggs, but just like no meat. There's even some that they said eat like some meat and they still consider themselves vegetarians. There's like a whole spectrum. And vegan is like no meat, you know, no dairy.
No animal byproducts.
No animal byproducts. So vegan is like the one extreme, and then there's like another extreme where you're having some animal products, and that's vegetarian. So I know a lot of people are always like, well, protein, how are you going to get your protein? All these people have protein deficiencies. Well, I mean, a lot, like, where is the cow, where is the animal getting their protein from, right? The plants that they're eating. So we talk about this a lot. So there's protein in plants, you know, there's protein in yogurt, there's protein in legumes, you know, there's protein in nuts, there's proteins in a lot of different sources. We're just very poorly educated. And then again, when we've been told, like, you gotta eat your dairy and to get your calcium. And then they did a study on that and found that people that, you know, had dairy products a high amount were actually more prone to getting fractures.
Osteoporosis. Too much calcium is bad for you, first of all. Cheese is, I don't know if you've seen any of the headlines about cheese. Now they're saying there's this big protest. They want the FDA to put on the label that cheese causes cancer. So, and you got to keep in mind that a lot of these foods that we have these today are not the same as they were 100 years ago, you know, or 50 years ago even, or even 30 years ago, because we're using so many chemicals. Everything is so contaminated. So, you know, we eat meat that comes from a cancerous animal. We eat food that has been processed. We eat food that has been sprayed with pesticides. And a lot of the food that we eat is not... So 30 years ago, what was healthy might not be healthy anymore. And that's unfortunate, but that's kind of the way of the world today. So, you know, animals are exposed to a lot of toxins these days that weren't around 30 years ago. So they're sick, and then we eat them. We're eating sick animals. So what do you think that's doing to us? You know? Yeah. And then there is a big debate, though, that says, you know, humans are omnivores. We have flat teeth. We have pointy teeth. You know, we're meant to eat both. So there is the argument that plant-based protein or plant fat isn't enough and you need some animal fat. Honestly, like, there's so much controversy. I don't know where I stand. So for me, I just go with a little bit of meat and then mostly plants, and that seems to work well for me. Yeah. Just don't overdo it.
Yeah,
really, just don't overdo it. And the diet thing, like I said, diets are fads. Diets are hard to follow. Find something that is a happy compromise. Find something where you're eating in moderation. There are certain foods you absolutely should avoid as much as possible. Things like packaged processed food, refined sugars. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, you know, in terms of your proteins, your fats, and your carbs, find something that works for you. And then based on your body type. So we have another presentation, we'll link it at the end, why diets don't work. Because people do have different body types, so you have to consider that when you're choosing what diet you want to do. But again, to me, I think it's a lifestyle change, and that's what has the most impact on your health.
Yeah.
In a positive way.
Yeah, like the main takeaways would be, to not have too much meat, minimal red meat, if at all.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to have meat, have lean meat. You get a high amount of fruits and vegetables, 8 to 10 servings a day. If you're going to eat fat, eat the good fat, the avocado, the nuts, the seeds, you know, those things. You have enough, you know, water, don't have too much dairy, you know, like, so everything in moderation. And then one of the other things was the raw food diet that I was interested in, because I was like, what's this raw food? Like, I met one raw foodist, and I was like, is that very healthy? But the raw food is kind of also on the vegetarian spectrum. You know, they're eating mostly raw foods. Some of them eat raw meat. Some of them eat sushi. There's like dehydrated meats and things that they use. So it's a very lengthy and arduous process to be a raw foodist. But with any of these diets, you know, vegetarian, vegan, raw foodist, they were just saying you just have to make sure that you're getting your daily amount of protein, you know, getting your nutrients, eating the rainbow. So if you're going to eat vegetables, eat like a variety of vegetables, which we talk about in a lot of our videos. And again, we have a whole food nutrition product that has the rainbow in it and is making sure that you get 8 to 10 vegetables a day, even if you can't get in your local grocer, which
10,
can
we get 30.
Oh, sorry.
With our product, we get 30. So,
but it can be a challenge, you know, to get that variety and to get that amount, you know. So the main thing was just making sure that you get a variety and make sure you get the nutrients you need, and make sure you research it well if you're going to do anything drastic. You know, also a big debate with vegans is, are they getting their vitamin B, I think 12s, because that's mostly found in animal products. So they were saying that they should have a supplement if you do decide to go vegan. So it's just like doing things intelligently, not just, you know, randomly, and to do it consistently, and to have a high amount of fruits and vegetables, and again, like lean meats if you're going to eat meats, and stay away from the red meats.
I feel like something that can be agreed upon is red meat in extreme moderation. Try to avoid your red meats as much as possible. But make sure you're making up for that somewhere else. You know, make sure you're eating salads and things that can help get you the protein that you would normally get from, or the iron that you would normally get from the meat. But avoiding the red meat, avoiding the refined sugar, avoiding excess dairy, excess alcohol, really the only thing that I would say that don't worry about eating too much of is fruits, vegetables, and water. Yeah. So when they say like, oh, like vegetarians, like, oh, it's so scary, it's not really that scary. If you know what you're doing.
If you know what you're doing.
And that's the thing, you know, we didn't dive into this deep enough to really explain how to do these things, but you need to know what you're doing. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to do this diet because I want to lose weight. Because if your goal is to lose weight, that's not a healthy goal. You need more than just the idea that I want to lose weight. Your goal should be, I want to be healthy. And if you are healthy, you will lose the weight.
And then I think there was like one other thing, and this is just another random interesting. In California, they actually have this area where people that have chronic diseases like cancer or even diabetes or anything where they feel that they need to have a recharge, there's a place where you could go and eat all like raw food. Or vegetarian food. It's like plant-based primarily diet to try to like reverse, you know, any disease in the body. And that's at the Hippocrates Institute, and Hippocrates said, let thy food be thy medicine. So I thought that was really interesting. I would like to go there one day and check it out.
Wow. Yeah.
So okay, that was a lot of information, but we hope we helped you kind of crack the code on diet.
Please share this video, because there are a lot of people who are into diet fads, and I think that there's not enough education about some of the dangers of certain diets and some of the purposes of certain diets, because not all diets are meant for long term, and not all diets can be sustained by most people. So
yeah, and if you do anything, just do it carefully.
Yeah, and consult with a doctor or a dietitian. but make sure that who you are consulting with has a strong nutrition background. I always recommend consulting with a nutritionist, a dietitian, because that's their training, you know, so.
Yeah, and functional medicine doctors have a good background in how nutrition is related to disease and health.
So if you do have a specific medical concern and you want to address it with diet, naturopathic medicine and functional medicine are great ways to go for that. So, but looking for wellness overall, you can go to them as well, or a dietitian. So,
yeah. So I just wanted to say thank you for coming.
Yeah, so please like our video, share our video. It's an important one, and I think it would benefit a lot of people. If you could subscribe to our channel and sign up for alerts and let you know when new videos are out. Visit us at Facebook, www.facebook.com/Lauren and Tracy. We always post when we have new videos up. And email us. That was the last one. Email us at alivetothrivegt@gmail.com with any questions or suggestions for future topics, or if you'd like to learn more about our nutritional product, Whole Food Nutrition.
Yeah. So this is us wishing you emotional, physical, and spiritual health. We'll see you next time.